Today on Nate's Chop Shop, I fail miserably. So I brought my torque meter to my work, which is simply a torque wrench adapter. You can buy them off Amazon or anything else. The first one I got on this dyno I got from Harbor Freight. It was fine. It read very low. This one starts at like 3.5 foot-pounds, but for some reason they don't make them where they do that anymore. The problem I was having with this thing is while it read the torque just fine, the batteries inside of it would vibrate around and it would lose connection. So I got into it and I pulled the batteries out. And I got these two little coin batteries. I don't know if you can see this. If I can find the thing, but they are 3 volts and they were put together positive to negative, so they're in series. So that makes it 6 volt. So I needed a steady 6 volt supply to my torque adapter. So I went old school. And what I did to make that work, if I can find where I set this stupid thing, was I went inside here and I simply looked at the battery and figured out what was positive and what was negative. And I went inside there and I soldered wires to it where I can hook it up to our friendly little 6 volt battery, which I tested this stuff with my multimeter, by the way, before I just went to hooking stuff up willy-nilly, and I was showing right at 6 volts with the 2 batteries, and with this 6 volt battery I was 6.5, and I figured that was probably close enough. The worst case scenario is I'd burn it up. It wouldn't be the first time I broke something. And with that hooked up, I can push the power button. Whoops. If I can keep it hooked up. You can see, with that hooked up, I can push the power button and it works. So I think what I'm going to try to do is build a little battery box for this with a lid that comes down and use some screws through the lid with washers on them to contact these springs so that it kind of comes down and latches and just holds itself in place. And that way I don't lose connection and end up flickering and stuff, because what I want to be able to do is put a camera over the torque meter, the tachometer, and the air fuel ratio gauge and make a pull and record all this, and that way I can go back through frame by frame and see what I've got, where I've got it. And also I happen to work at a shop where we change a lot of transmissions, and I have accumulated some transmission fluid because I needed something thinner. Motor oil was just not cutting it. It was too thick. I'd start closing the gate valve and it'd just bind up, just lock it down. So here is my bucket of transmission fluid. So I'm gonna load that up into some other buckets and then I'll change the oil out, put this back on, get the box built, get it all put together where hopefully we can make a test pull and we'll get right back to it. That's where we'll pick up. So I screwed up. Rather than building a little dashboard like I said I was going to, make everything work, I got these new Tillotson 196Rs in for the boys' go-karts, and I was trying to tune on those and get those ready to go. Everything seemed to be working pretty good. I changed it over to transmission fluid and it was working pretty good, except I don't think the transmission fluid was slick enough, because right in here where this shaft goes in didn't have a seal and it leaked. It always leaked. But I put the transmission fluid in and I made a lot of pulls. I was adjusting the timing 2 degrees at a time to see what would make the most power. I will say I'm very impressed with the Tillotson 196R. It's a strong little motor, puts the Predators to shame, and I'm tickled pink to have them. But anyway, long story short, I was gonna get all this dialed in and then build the little dashboard. You know, I was gonna put it right here and do my triumphant video of everything working like it was supposed to. It did not. It spewed oil all over me. It spewed oil all over my truck. It was just a disaster. It worked good long enough to get this motor tuned, but you can see, I mean, there are puddles of oil in this engine. And this, I just started it up this morning to make sure it wasn't leaking just because it was hot, and it did that. Let's see if it'll start right quick. So as you can see, the pump is shot, and I custom made all that. I used my lathe that I used to have and don't have anymore to find center off the shaft and be able to put this in there with a hex drive in it to hold the torque meter. And I just don't have the stuff, or really honestly the inclination to build another one. So I think what I'm going to do is probably try to build an inertia dyno, but I think what I want to do is build one that's a chassis dyno, where you just roll a go-kart up on it, make a pull, and know what you've got. No taking the motor off and strapping it down. I've got this header with a wideband oxygen sensor in it that I really like because I know exactly what my air-fuel ratio is while it's running, and it's pretty handy. But if I can measure horsepower and I can measure air-fuel ratio, I'm gonna be fine, because I like to use the dyno to set my timing, because if you move it just a little at a time, you know, you just advance it until it stops picking up power, and then you're there. You know, I usually back it off a degree or two just for safety, but it's you want to get all you can out of it, and that's what the dyno is all about. But anyway, this one's done. I may turn it into a work table or something and just go from there. So I guess the next step's just cut it up. But anyway, that's this video. It didn't go exactly like I planned, but you'll have some of that. Anyway, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share, even though I failed. We'll do a next one pretty soon.